Guys, welcome to next episode with your host Nick.
Jess.
And today we are going to be discussing the Netflix hit The Hunting Wives.
Yes.
So, Jessica, you brought this show to my attention. I had been seeing like I saw it like on Netflix. It would be like, oh yeah, streaming number one, but I had no idea what the show was about. So I really it wasn't really on my radar until you put it on my radar.
And I didn't know what it was about either. I just knew that like people were talking about it. There was a lot of like kind of controversy around it. It felt like people were, but I was trying hard. I kept seeing it come across my social media, but I kept skipping it because I was like, no, y'all are going to ruin it for me. But if everybody's talked about it, it must be interesting. So that's why I was like, well, it's probably a good one for us to look at and talk about. But I wanted to go into it not knowing, like knowing as little as possible.
I also went into the show not knowing anything but the title, The Hunting Wives. And
Hmm.
so I was definitely caught off guard with the show. I will I will say that. Like upon further reflection, now that I've seen the whole show, they only go hunting one time.
By the way.
But so this show is based in East Texas. And I think it's very important to say East Texas because Texas is a big state and there's like a lot of cultural clusters, I would say. And although like Texas kind of has a reputation of a like conservative state in general, there are a lot of like more liberal areas. Austin, Houston, maybe even Dallas. I'm not sure.
Sure.
If Dallas, but there's some like liberal like kind of hubs. East Texas though, very conservative. There's a lot of money out there, and they kind of, to me, like they kind of are more isolated in a sense that like it's very much about like their community versus like the rest of the world. Like a lot of people like they stay there their whole lives. They're living well, but it's very much like it's its own thing. It doesn't represent all of Texas. Would you agree with that?
East Texas. So I'm gonna go ahead and
Okay.
sounds about right.
Okay. And so the show has two women as the main character. The first being like Margot, who is like the queen bee of this town in East Texas. And then there's like Sophie, who's like the new girl who's coming from like what they consider like the East Coast. Like she's coming from Boston. And her husband has gotten a job in East Texas, and so now they're coming in and they meet because Margot's husband is Sophie's husband's boss. And so the story honestly, it follows like their relationship, them getting to know each other and us getting to know this East Texas community. it it
It's
it has
amazing.
it gave me like Desperate Housewife vibes,
Okay.
but turned all the way up. Like this show could never have been on ABC.
No, 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 no. Absolutely not.
And so how would you, if you had to kind of describe Margot, how would you
Hmm.
describe her?
Is a like yeah, she is absolutely the queen bee. She's the center of this community in Texas, but she has completely created that for herself. She came from absolutely nothing, married a rich man. She kind of runs things in this town. And she's one of those because she came from absolutely nothing. She's very streetwise and knows how to manipulate people and get what she needs out of everybody else.
So I'm going to ask because this is your area of expertise.
Hmm.
Sophie, during the show, calls Margot a sociopath.
Hmm.
Do you think she has a personality disorder based on what you saw, of course? And if she does, which one is it?
Oh goodness. So I don't know that I'm comfortable fully saying like she definitely has a no, I will say no to sociopath. And I don't, she possibly has a personality disorder. That's possible, but I don't feel strongly about it. I mean, she's like, it seems like she has gone through a whole lot of trauma in her life. We saw glimpses of it, but we didn't see a whole lot of it. And she's had to fend for herself her entire life. Right. So I think like that having to, I want to say low key raise her younger brother, and they've just had to do whatever it takes to survive. Like she's like constantly in survival mode, even when she does not have to, no longer has to be. So that's what I see. I think she acts out a lot of that kind of trauma, and if she can control her whole world, then she can make it so that her and her brother are safe.
Because I think her mom, to me, her mom seemed like she had some mental health issues, like when
Her
she
mom
was like
does pretty much.
fighting like with the
Mhm.
with the police and with the
And
landlord.
the
I'm like,
landlord. But that seemed more like that would have been like something more like either schizophrenia or bipolar, something like that. Like she had like a like more kind of classic mental illness, but they don't go in deep enough to say what it was. It just seems like she's in some sort of um psychotic episode, the glimpse that we get of her mother.
so do you like Margot?
Like it's always gonna be hard, honestly, always gonna be hard for me when you're like super staunch Republican and to be like you believe basically other people don't have the same rights that you do. That's always going to be a tough sell, but just the way that she's able to spin every situation and kind of control everything around her is a little bit charming to me,
Yes.
I guess. But at the end of the day, like even if she does a lot of things that are anti what her beliefs are supposed to be, but you still perpetuate a whole lot of problems and stereotypes for everybody else. So it's a mixed
Yes.
bag.
Yes. So Margot her husband's running for governor, and of course he's running as a Republican, which means, God, guns, family, let's save the
Hmm.
babies.
Hmm.
But they have an open marriage where they're both allowed to sleep with women. They She breaks that covenant and actually ends up sleeping with a man and gets pregnant. I'm sorry, she sleeps with a boy and gets pregnant
Hmm.
and then has an abortion, which is like the biggest like no. And so I
Hmm.
just find it like I find her so interesting because even as she's like espousing like all of like she's on TV and she's saying all of these things and like they still like make little snide remarks about Democrats
Hmm.
while doing all of the things that they swear that the Democrats do that they hate. And
Yeah.
so she's very interesting. Like I don't think that I liked her. Like
Hmm.
as far as
Yeah.
like being an entertaining character, yes, she was very
It's more so that.
entertaining, very
Yeah.
captivating on screen. But like I was kind of like horrified as I was watching the show, especially her relationship with the teenage boy. It was horrifying.
Right.
And I'm just like,
Horrible.
are we serious? Is
Right.
like I cannot believe they put that in the show and spent as much time on it as they
Yes,
did.
I do. Right.
I honestly I was very horrified by that. Like
Yeah.
her and her husband
Absolutely.
having an open relationship, that was fine.
Hmm.
But you could see that not only did she use sex to try to get power with her husband, but she also used sex out in the community because like
To
she
get
had
power
a
with everyone.
relationship. One of the ladies in their group, Callie, she was having a sexual relationship with Callie, and Callie really, really like had deep feelings for her, and Margot really does not have real feelings for Callie, and she uses like sex to control Callie and to get her to be like essentially her henchman. Margot was very attracted to Sophie when she first saw her. And she like very much like seduced her. Now, you cannot seduce someone who does not want to be seduced. That's a
Yeah.
separate thing. We'll get to that later. But
Hmm.
like she seduced her so deeply. And then
I would almost say groomed.
she's a grown woman. I'm not
I
gonna
don't
say
care.
Is it
It's
because of the
like
power
she doesn't.
differential?
Yes. Yeah, like this, but she like her it's so predatory. It's like when you ask me, do I like her? I don't know if I like her. She's interesting. But yeah, I had an issue with her and the teenage boy as well. I had an issue like no teenagers in this town were safe, I just want to say. And that's
None.
uncomfortable the entire time you're
Hmm.
watching the show. Um but yeah, I would say because like it is so intentional and calculated in the way that she goes about putting people in certain situations and putting her in certain situations. Now, mind you, yes, Sophie is a grown woman, so do I feel differently about it with her than I do with the teenager, with the boy. It's Brad.
Brad.
Brad is the boy. Yeah, so I feel differently. Like Sophie actually also, still made her own decisions, but like it was very calculated in the way that
Absolutely.
Margot would
Yes, yes. I'm going to tell you the reason why I won't use the word groomed is because, like, Sophie was also very attracted to her,
she
like,
was.
was obviously, like, interested, wanting to be with her, but also wanting to fit into the group. And she was
Hmm.
looking for freedom from her home life, which, she was having some struggles, within her marriage because of the controllingness of her husband. Like, I really feel like they met each other in the right time. I feel like Sophie wanted to be seduced as much as Margot wanted to seduce her. She was a willing participant because there are so many times I really like this show happened in a very short amount of time. Like, this show, I do not think, but I also don't think, like, as far as
Oh,
time passing, I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 weeks that all of this stuff happened. And so I don't see Sophie as an innocent victim. I don't see her as someone without agency because she also, when she first came in, she came in with her nose a little stuck up, like, oh, I'm from the East Coast, I'm a Democrat, I'm different than them. Like, but then she immediately fell in line. But we'll talk more about that later because I want to talk
yeah.
about that.
It's in the air though. I don't know.
Her and her husband, like, made little snide remarks about, like, oh, we're going to an NRA thing, and as if,
But they
like,
still went.
they went,
Um,
but she also just joined okay, I'm sorry. Let me
yeah.
finish talking about
Okay,
Margot.
I'm sorry. Okay.
So Margot, like, she was like she was like seducing Sophie and making it seem like she had such a deep connection with her. Then she framed her for murder.
Okay.
Framed her for murder, left her hung out to dry, and so, of course, Sophie does not know that it's Margot that's framed her for murder. She just knows that she's being framed and she's trying to figure it out. And somehow Margot, who does not support her with an alibi, somehow weasels back in. That was the biggest thing for me. I could
That's
not.
when I know I don't feel bad for Sophie. I know I still feel like she's very calculated in her approach. So early on while she's in the vulnerable state and while Margot was being so calculated, I feel bad. But like there were so many chances where Sophie could have got out that she didn't take, and that's where you're like, okay, you don't have to be an innocent victim to be a victim of something. But Sophie also makes really bad choices when it's obvious. When the issue is obvious. She blames her for murder, and she's looking for an excuse to go back to Margot at this point.
She is. When she tells Margot, oh, you know what? I like you so much, but I need to get myself together and then come back to you. I'm like,
Hmm.
ma'am, you were at her home in the woods when your gun got stolen. Who do you
Hmm.
think stole your gun?
You're
Are you
good.
kidding me? She was
Hmm.
suspecting everybody but Margot because she wanted to
She didn't
continue
want
to
it to
have
be
sex with
Margot.
her.
She
Point
did.
blank.
She did.
And
Hmm.
so I want to segue into Sophie
Okay.
because if there's an opportunity to make a decision, Sophie's going to make the wrong one.
Absolutely. Every time.
So, so
Every time.
right. So Sophie was like did political PR, I guess, back in Boston, and before she got married, like, no, before she had a child. And so once she had a child, she became a stay-at-home mom. Okay, that so she's been a stay-at-home mom for a while. So what you find out is that probably about 2 years prior, Sophie was driving drunk and she hit someone and killed them. And since that, and it opened up a CPS investigation. It was like a big thing. She was able to get out of it without jail time. They did not lose custody of their child. But since then, Sophie's husband has been using that against her to like hyper control her. And apparently she was drinking because she had a hysterectomy and she felt bad that she couldn't have more kids, which okay, okay,
Yeah.
you know, that's fine. But what I thought was very weird. Okay. I understand her husband saying, "Hey, you've gotten a DUI, you have a drinking problem, you cannot drink anymore." Why she was no longer allowed to drive? I don't understand.
I don't either.
And
I don't either.
that is the thing that made me dislike her husband because if I'm being objective, once I
Hmm.
finished the show and looked back at it, her husband, I did not deserve the amount of dislike I had for him. Like he got on my nerves. I
From
could,
the beginning, he got on my nerves.
yes, he,
From the
I,
beginning, I did not like him, and he didn't. And I will say this too. I agree with you, and I feel like I had almost the same reaction. Like I probably should not dislike him as much as I do, but I still seriously dislike him,
I
honestly.
do, I
Even,
do.
but but I also would say like initially when you start to find out about her incident, about the drunk driving incident,
Hmm.
it doesn't it at first thought she was just drunk that night and drove. I did not like. I feel like later, a little bit later on, you realize no, she actually had a bit of a drinking problem. So that's different. I was like, okay, because I was like, okay, if my like, yes, is it wrong to drink and drive? And it's absolutely wrong. Everything that happened, but like, I'm like, if I was married, my spouse made a lapse in judgment and something really bad happened, I would still feel like I was more on their side than it felt like he was. And I'm like, okay, a little bit different. And I felt like, hey, yes, I'm gonna stick with you through this. But I just can't see responding like he responded with all that control. But I didn't realize how bad her drinking problem was until a little bit later on in the show either.
Yes. But also, the more you get to know Sophie and see her decision making, the way he acts makes more sense, but still doesn't feel good, right?
It doesn't feel good. No. He treats
Sophie,
her like a child.
he does. But if you think about it, she acts like a child too. Like she will say, "Hey, I'm going out. I'm going to be gone for a couple of hours, literally gone for 16 hours." She
Yes.
has done that multiple times, telling him, "Oh,
Yes.
I'm going to be gone for this amount of time." Literally is gone either all night, late into the night or into the next morning. And she keeps doing that. And
She
so,
does. But most of
but
the time.
also, so also, like, let's think about when you flash back and you learn about Sophie's like background, even before she married her husband. She was a party girl, which there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with that. But the issue that I have with Sophie is so Sophie has a roommate, and you find out that her and her roommate have a sexual relationship. And the roommate is like, "Hey, I want to discuss this. Like you told me that you loved me during this encounter, and I feel like we need to explore what's going on." And Sophie was like, "Oh, I was drunk. That was like a one-time thing." Oh, and the roommate was like, that doesn't sound right. You're just kind of like not wanting to admit."
Listen,
Sophie immediately, and when I say immediately, she immediately goes outside and meets Graham. And you can tell that she is not attracted to him when she meets him.
at all. At all. You could tell.
But she is like, "Oh, you know what? I don't want to deal with like these feelings between me and my roommate. So I'm going to immediately get into a relationship with him." And then they end up getting married. And if you listen to what Graham says, he says she was a bit of a wild child, but I calmed her down. She completely changed who she was and how she was to be in a relationship with him, but not even because she loved him, but because she was scared of like living her truth essentially. Because I am of the opinion that Sophie is a lesbian. I
I
don't
think so
even
too.
think Sophie is bisexual. I
I
think
don't
Sophie's
either.
a lesbian.
I do too. I agree with you.
Now, Margot,
And she strongly does not want to deal with that. Yeah. Now, yeah, I think Margot's more bisexual, but like Sophie is lesbian.
Margot
She
is,
does
I
not
think,
want to
at
deal
this
with it at
point,
all.
pansexual. Margot is going to do whatever she wants to do and enjoy whatever
Whenever
she
she
wants
wants
to
to.
enjoy. She does not care. But like, I'm like, even if you look at how Sophie is with Grant,
Oh
sh
my God.
it is
It's
so awkward.
uncomfortable. It's
It
so
is.
clinical, so cold. But when she like the first time she sees Margot, it's like she lights up, you know? And I'm like, Graham don't make you look like that. I don't think
No,
Graham has the ability to make you look at him like that.
no. Like, like the TV wolf whose eyes pop out and their tongue rolls. That was Sophie the first time that she saw like Margot. And I'm
Hmm.
like, and even though like Margot was being like sexy flirty, at that time in the story, I thought that like Margot was just like one of those like sexy women who like
Magnanimous characters who just draws you in.
right. I didn't really see. I did not understand that she was like, no, we want her for real. But
That's what we want
Sophie,
for real.
like the only time I feel like Sophie looked like she had a little bit of chemistry with her husband was when she got turned on by Margot and then went and had sex with him. That was not about him. And even he
That was
was
not
like,
him at all.
even he was like, man,
What got into you? It's like what got into you? No, that wasn't normal. That's not how you normally do. And I was
right.
sitting there like, dude, shut up. You just
You better accept it
you
because
better accept it. That's the best it's gonna get for you.
she hates you.
She does.
I don't know if he loves her either, though. I'm not even sure.
No,
I don't.
I don't think so. You know, with him, it's that like kind of old adage like that men like to get like a free wild bird so that they can put it in a cage. It's one
Mhm.
of those things. He very much enjoys that he's caged her. Like it's like even when he talks about her again before we really know a whole lot, he's like, oh, she was a wild party girl. I calmed her down. Yeah, it's like it's how is that different from them describing their hunting expeditions? You know what I mean? The way that
Mhm.
he talks about her to the point where you offended the super ultra conservative Republican man by the way you were talking about your wife, and he checked him.
Right. That's a. I, like Grant. She did Grant dirty. She did, but she should have never been
Graham
with
or
Grant.
Graham?
Graham. Okay, I'm
Graham.
sorry. His
Mhm.
name is Graham, and I've called him Graham, but I've also probably been calling him Grant because those names are the same to me. It's basically the same. But
Yeah, that's what shocked me when he checked him. I was like, dang,
no one really likes him.
no one does.
He does not fit into the community the way that his wife like kind of fit in. And
Hmm.
I think it's because she literally shed every aspect of who she was to fit into this new society. Like,
But she has a pattern of doing that. That's what she did for
yeah,
Graham.
she
That's what
did.
she has a pattern of doing that.
Because I think her attraction to Margot, she's like, oh, you know what? This is Margot's area. So now I'm going to fold myself
And to
in.
Margot,
Right. Like she started going to church. she, and even her
I'm sure
husband
she's
was
an
like,
atheist, but she started going to church, started referring to it as our church.
right. Because I was just like, why are you crying up there? Like, what's going on?
He's
Man,
like,
just
you understand? You're
move.
just doing this for my job and appearances, right?
That's why, in retrospect, I'm like, oh, I kind of gave Grant such a hard time when I was watching the show because,
Hmm.
but honestly, like he was being very genuine. He was being who he was. He's just not a he's not a good guy,
Listen,
and he shouldn't be with
there's no
Sophie
good people on this show. There's almost no good people on this show.
Star.
Almost no.
Star was a
Star
good person. The mom,
for the most part. I'm gonna go back to when you don't think other people have rights. You know what I mean? Like if you don't think like she's still a staunch Republican, very anti-abortion. Like she like okay, and mind you, again was Sophie wrong? Yes. But when Sophie's trying to come to you and you know, telling you why she thinks your daughter was murdered, and she was like, and your response is, you saying my daughter's a murderer? And I'm like, was she trying to tell you? is that she thinks your daughter had an abortion, and because of that, she didn't feel like, and instead of like you responded with like, oh my, because I feel like any other mother would be like, oh, she didn't feel like she could tell me, and instead she was like, you're saying my daughter's a murderer. She's not. She's better than most in the show, is what I will say. But I feel like this
Okay,
is
what
one of those
about
shows.
the
There's
lady
more.
cop, Salazar?
Okay, Salazar's the only good person in the show.
Yes, I loved her. I
Salazar's
loved
it.
her.
I love
So,
Salazar too.
the way that the ladies treated like Star though was
Yes, it's horrible.
so it was because they literally took one person and put everything that that community hates in that one person. She's overweight. She does not have a husband because it sounds like her husband left her, and she's poor. Like they treated her like she was poop on the bottom of a shoe.
They did. And listen, the way that they treated her was wrong. For the most part, she is as decent as she could be. But yeah, that character still, I mean, she still has some issues, which everybody does. You know what I mean? I'm not opposed to a show where everybody's flawed. But I'm just saying there's flaws there too. But did I hate Star? No. I felt for Star. The whole time I felt for Star. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't like the way her daughter was treating her, even though I'm like, I know her daughter's a teenager. She's in that point where your mom can do no right and, everybody else is right. And she's trying to fit into this community that does not want her, basically.
Right.
But I still, every time, like, she was mean to Star, I felt so bad. But, okay, let me ask you a question because this part really got to me. So the scene where Star's daughter, what's Star's daughter name? Lord, I can't
Abby.
think of it. Abby. The scene where Abby and Brad, because like so Abby is dating the pastor's son, Brad. Um,
Yes.
and so they're in the car and he's yelling at her, and she can see from the house that he's yelling at her daughter, and she just sits there and does nothing. That bothered me so bad. That bothered me so bad. Because I'm like, okay. I just don't feel like I'm like, there's no way. My mama would have ran out there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That was hard for me to watch. Her just sit there and just accept this treatment from this boy.
Well, but you have to think like they value and care about men in this community.
Hmm. Well, and that's what I felt like it was. I'm
And
like,
so of
but
course she's
again,
gonna
it's but you're choosing
not
that
say
over your
anything.
daughter. You're not. Hmm. And she does. She reflects on it after her daughter dies. That was kind of wrong. But I was like, but in the moment watching it the first time, and I'm like, this boy is browbeating your daughter, and you're not even running out there saying like, don't talk to my daughter, or pulling her out the car.
Essentially, I feel like the reason why Star did not intervene is because of the patriarchy. Like honestly, in their community they have a hierarchy, and Brad is at a higher place, and in some ways she probably feels like Abby is lucky to be dating him.
Agree that that's the reasoning. It's just uncomfortable because that's your child. And essentially you're willing to let your child get mistreated for that reason. Like that doesn't strike you at all until, well, not that it doesn't strike you at all, because I think it bothered her in the moment. She looked hurt in the moment, but she still allowed this boy to mistreat her. Yeah, that's not more important. Your child's preservation is not more important to you. Now, do I think Abby still would have taken Brad's side and all that stuff? That's fine. Well, it's not fine, but I feel like Abby would have, because that was the most important thing in her life. But still, I feel like it would have made me feel better that you tried.
Yes, because if Abby ever decides, like, let's say her and Brad get married and he's abusing her, she needs to know that she has people she can go to who will stand with her and stand up for her. With her mom just watching, if Abby's ever in a bad situation, she
Right.
doesn't know that she can go to her mom because she doesn't know that her mom is going to stand up for her because her mom, like, believes strongly in the same systems of oppression that she does, honestly.
And I'm sure she's been taught that way, because you see Abby struggling with, Abby's actually very religious, very Christian, but because Brad wants sex, she's struggling with that, and she ends up giving in multiple times to please him, but going against her own beliefs. You know,
Yes.
so she's been taught that you forsake everything to preserve access to that man.
So I want to talk about Callie. Callie honestly is one of the most interesting
Kelly's
characters on
interesting
this show
character.
because
She is interesting.
I'm I cannot figure out the relationship with her and her husband. It is
Hmm.
very obvious that her husband is at the very least bisexual. I could tell by how she like snapped at that deputy when she saw them in the office together and the deputy was way too close to her husband. And based on their sexual proclivities, I would say it's you did
Miss that.
watch it again.
Snapping at a deputy, because I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna look for that. Kelly is very interested in me too. Um,
Well,
I wouldn't say that he's
I would say
necessarily
she made
bisexual.
it like, what are y'all doing? She made it very
Mhm.
clear that she was like, this doesn't look right. You don't think her? Oh no, her husband I think is definitely bisexual.
I don't think like
Like,
like
pay
that
attention
that makes him
again. Like she's
bisexual.
like, what are you
Um,
doing? But
okay, maybe I missed some cues with him, but I didn't see that.
the pegging,
Yeah, no, that
watch
alone
it
does not make you
again.
bisexual. Okay, so, maybe I missed something,
No,
but
no,
yeah.
the pegging alone does not make him bisexual. It was her it was her uncomfortability with the deputy and how like him and the
Mhm.
deputy getting close makes me feel like he's also attracted to men. And I'm trying to understand like their relationship because like after I watched the show, I watched the videos and I saw people say, "Oh, they're in a lavender marriage, they're in a lavender marriage." And I'm like, I don't think that they are. I think that
Yeah, yeah, I do. I agree. I think so too.
also think that they are attracted to other genders. And I we know that Callie is exploring that with Margot, but I don't know if that's allowed within their relationship. The way that Margot was allowed to explore her sexuality within her marriage.
Right. Okay, and
And I
I would
think Callie
agree. Yeah, I think that they love each other, and I think that they're attracted to each other as well. I think that they almost feel like best friends. You know what I mean? Like they support each other in their efforts. I think for the most part, they support each other in their efforts,
Mhm.
and almost like they're really there to help each other's career, and they love each other. So I do think that they genuinely love each other and and are attracted to each other. I completely missed the whole bisexuality thing with the husband, so I can't speak to that. Um, but I don't. He doesn't know about Margot, about his wife and Margot, and I think she also loves Margot, as well. So they both just, because of their belief systems and their town, they're not really able to explore themselves in completely, like they might in a different situation. But yeah, I think they have a real marriage.
I mean, it seems like they're doing plenty of exploring. Just not public
Well,
facing, but
Callie
there seems
is.
to be plenty of exploring going on.
Callie is exploring. I don't know if he's actually exploring or if he's fighting himself. But Callie is exploring. Again, it doesn't feel like it is as open on the husband's
Don't
side, and it doesn't feel like he knows.
agree with that. I don't think necessarily the husband is sleeping with men. I think that I
Mm,
quite sure he knows he's attracted to men, and I think Callie knows that too. But I think that that's why they're pegging because she wants to fulfill like that sexual desire that he has. But I don't think she wants him to be sleeping with men. I don't know that he necessarily, even though he's attracted, I don't know if he necessarily wants to sleep with men. Like they didn't explore it that deeply, but it's very obvious that they don't fit the conservative
he's
mold once
right.
again while perpetuating the myth, of this is the way that life should be led, but you guys are privately doing the opposite.
Mhm, right. Right.
I also
And
think that they're
it's
perfect for
always
each
that
other, though, because
hypocrisy.
I agree with
You know what I
you.
mean?
They
It's always going to go
have
back to that
a
hypocrisy.
good relationship.
I do too.
They like,
I do too. Is there a delay?
I need to restart.
All right, let me stop here. Yeah,
Honestly, I think that
perfect.
they're actually,
Me too. I really like them as a couple. I think they
and
complement
I
each other.
honestly want to see, I want to see their TV show Married Justice.
Justice, justice too. But the only thing is, I will say about this because I'm like, I have no issue with open marriages. I just like things to be open on both sides. I feel like if it's only open on one side, that's kind of exploitative. So I would like to see. I think the only thing that would make their marriage better is if they both could be honest with each other about being open, and if the husband was fully allowed to explore whatever he wants to explore too. Then my only notes. But
I
otherwise,
agree.
I think they work well together. They support each other. He was excited. Like I was a little bit concerned when she started getting some shine. I thought he was gonna, act like most of the other men on the show, but he didn't. He seemed excited for her too. So that's why I think they're a
He
good
did.
match. He's a little dumb. He's a little dumb, so he needs somebody who's smart. Other than that, they work well together.
Like if you contrast like Callie and her husband with Margot
Hmm.
and her husband, you can tell Callie's husband has a lot more respect and admiration for her and takes her more
Yeah,
seriously. Margot's husband
yeah.
very much sees Margot as a trophy, something that he can
Hmm.
show like, hey, be aspirational, be rich, and then get a hot wife. He does. I
Hmm.
don't feel like he really like respects her, um,
He doesn't.
other
She's an
than for her
object to
physical.
him. Her
Now
physical
he met her
attributes
as
and
an
her
escort.
willingness to sleep. Oh wow, yeah, that's true. But that still doesn't. That still is not okay. He sees her as a possession, and you can see like Margot's husband. Like, there's two instances where you really see like she is an object to him. Is like when she says she's talking to. I think it's when they're about to do the threesome with the ex-wife. I think she's saying to her like, "Oh, nobody tells." Margot says to her, "Nobody tells me what to do," and he looks bothered by that. And then when at the end where Margot is kind of confessing everything to him, trying to get his help, he gets upset with her. He was like, you're supposed to be here to make my life better." Now I'm like, as many challenges and scandals and craziness as y'all been through, when she really needs you for something, and mind you, is Margot trifling as hell? Yes. Has she done some crazy shit? But I feel like if he had murdered somebody, she would have helped bury the bodies, you know? So like you can't.
Yes, but in it's just their community though. Like in their community, like women don't hold real power. Margot holds
Hmm.
court and she is the queen bee. She is only the queen bee because of who she's married to. She
Hmm.
only has soft power. And so once she moves outside of the system, meaning the rules that her husband has set up,
Hmm.
she's completely thrown away. The way he slapped her
Oh yeah, yeah.
and immediately threw her away. And everything and that all the people who loved her, all the people who respected her, that as soon as they found out they're not together anymore, they're going to turn their back on her
Yeah.
because it's not it she has no real power.
Mhm. It's
But
relative to him.
right, whereas like I really feel like Callie's husband respects her. He talks about her accomplishments. Oh, she's a award-winning or championship shooter. He listens to her. They bounce ideas off of it. They have a real partnership.
And he looks at her with adoration. You know what I mean? In his eyes, like the way he looks at her. And that's why I'm like, I think y'all can make it. Y'all just gonna have to open it up on both sides.
Absolutely. The last person I want to talk about
Hmm.
is Jill. Can I tell
Girl.
you she, and here's the thing, like Margot, the way that Margot and Sophie were with those teenage boys was disgusting to me. It was very, very gross. But the worst scene for me in this entire show
What were
was
you saying?
watching Jill get turned on from breastfeeding. I almost turned the show off.
Girl, girl. That was so uncomfortable. And then I feel like they implied her having some kind of relationship with her son. They never stated it, but it was just weird and uncomfortable,
I
yeah.
just took that as like there was definitely emotional incest.
At the very least. Hmm.
She did like give him a kiss that I felt like was a little inappropriate, but I like this is the thing. We have seen emotional incest in several shows.
Yeah.
There was no the breastfeeding scene was not necessary. It was not necessary. I personally don't think that I feel like they could have did something other than like the teenage boy sex storyline. Like,
Yeah. That did feel unnecessary.
but
Because
if they
there's
want,
so much.
but they okay,
Okay.
they did it and it's fine. You know, okay, whatever. But the breastfeeding scene, that was a step too far for me.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was like it was disgusting. And it makes me have zero sympathy for Jill. And when I tell you zero, I mean zero. Like her husband hates her.
Absolutely hates her. Absolutely hates her. But also, again, I don't like him either. Because, like, you hate your wife, but you at some point you married and chose this woman to treat her badly. Because, like,
Let
before the breastfeeding scene that is uncomfortable and is unnecessary. Like, the reason why she did not want to breastfeed at first, she's like, nobody's mouth's ever been on there. And I'm like, chick, you married, you just had a baby. Nobody's mouth has been on there. Like, you know what I mean? That tells you a lot about their relationship or her relationship with her husband.
can I tell you the
Hmm.
scene where she makes dinner and he sits at that table and says the chicken is dry and then gets
Hmm.
up and walk I scream laughed. I said, this man hates this woman. Now,
Hates her.
here's the thing. Um, and I don't know if this is going to come across as a defense of the pastor or not, but this is
He's
how I see
indefensible.
things.
Hmm.
Okay, he obviously is a pastor, very, very conservative. A lot of times, like, they marry young, they marry quickly, and they don't really know about relationships. They don't really know about sex. You know what I'm saying? Like, I honestly can understand why their marriage is the way that it is if they've never taken the time to explore their relationship and explore their marriage. Now, do I feel like he should be treating his wife bad? I don't. But his wife is also annoying as hell.
His wife is also annoying as hell, but it's that classic I'm one way at church and I'm a different way at home. Because think about how he talks about her when he's in the pulpit. He talks about her like she is everything in the pulpit and then comes home and treats that woman like absolute crap. So I'm sorry, though, you got some culpability in there.
Okay, now that is true, but I feel like a lot of the way that he treats her is based on the way that she acts. She is always up to something. Because think about this though, you don't really see the pastor hanging out with the husbands like that.
No, he doesn't.
He does not. He's not in with the foolishness, and I will say that because he 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 does not like Brad, his own son, because of how
He
Brad
doesn't.
acts, and he does not like Jill because of how Jill acts, and he also is not with the shits. Like he's like, if y'all did something, I'm a snitch. I'm not covering up for y'all.
He said that about those two. However, the reason why I also say he's a bad person too is because he does know. Okay, so like the youth pastor, all right, the youth pastor who's incredibly inappropriate with them children too. He tells him you're too familiar with the kids, you need to pull back or whatever. But he knows about the incident in New Orleans. We never get the details about it, what it was, but he says to him, this is not going to be another New Orleans situation. So you hired this man knowing that he already had issues with kids in New Orleans, and then you hired him to be the youth pastor of your church.
Now that is very true. I did forget about that. But my
So
question is, how much does he know? Because this is the thing, like them moving problematic pastors, youth pastors, priests around is very common. And so I wonder if he got the full story because honestly, we don't even have the full story
We
And
don't.
I honestly
I
feel
think
like whatever the pastor thought happened in New Orleans or in Louisiana was 10 times worse based on the stuff that he was doing when he got to Texas. I
the the reason why I feel like you knew enough not to hire that man and put him around kids is because you are talking to him and having a conversation about him becoming too familiar with the children of the
Yes.
church and being too, and you brought that up in that conversation. So you know it has something to do with him being inappropriate, even if you don't know the full
No, no,
details.
no. I agree. And it's because they are allowed these problematic like faith leaders are allowed to say, "Oh, you know what? I talked to God and I've sought forgiveness and I'm looking for redemption." And they're allowed to start over. There's an infinite well of forgiveness for them, cover-ups for them. You know what I'm saying? I the
But here's my
Pastor
other thing.
Pete storyline was
Hmm.
so interesting to me. And the reason
Okay.
why it was interesting to me is because I found out like after I finished watching the show and I like were looking at different interviews because I was wanting to know, I know it's based on a book. And so I was trying to find out like what did I watch that was adapted from the book and what was added on for TV. Pastor Pete is not in the book.
Damn.
That
I don't know.
storyline is not in the book at all, which makes that very interesting that they put that in there because a lot of I feel like a lot of what this show is talking about is conservative hypocrisy, like what they put out as who they are versus who they actually are. And this storyline is a storyline that we see and hear often. How many times have we like heard about grooming, excuse me, how many times have we heard about like a youth pastor marrying a girl as soon as she turns 18, or we found out a youth pastor is abusing kids? Like this is it's something that happens very often, and the way that they did that storyline, finding out that he had a history in Louisiana, that the pastor knew he had a history in Louisiana and still allowed him to be around kids like without supervision. You know what I mean? The fact that he was supposed to be taking these kids on a
Full
mission
background check.
trip to another country.
To hmm Yep. All of it's a problem. And here's the thing, and like again, I don't know, you don't know how much the pastor knows, but you know he knows something. But you also didn't do a background check because when I think it's Salazar calls New Orleans police, the New Orleans Police Department says, I hope I never heard his name again. So you didn't even really fully check them out. And it is common in positions where you have to primarily work with children for them to do like a deeper background check for that very reason. So the pastor didn't even do that, and you were going to put him over kids. And for these mega churches, these are hired positions. You know what I mean? Like you are getting paid for these positions. I know a lot of churches don't operate that way, but so like, but you could do like you could do a background check like you would for any other employee. You're not doing that, and then you're giving him access to all these children.
I think it goes to the fact that conservatives care a lot about babies, especially unborn babies. They don't actually care about children, and they don't especially don't care about women. So, of course, they're not going to put those protections in place,
These the children of this town are the most unprotected in the story. Like literally, no one is protecting them.
which is funny because oftentimes they choose to live in these communities because they swear that it's safe and because of the values that they like have. But if you like peek behind the curtain, it's extremely ripe for predatory behavior. There is so much financial, emotional, and sexual abuse happening as people jockey for power. Because if we're very honest, like Margot is not with Brad because Brad is just so sexy and amazing. He's young, he can be manipulated. She likes the way that he adores her. You know, like it's a power thing. It's power. It's not passion.
Yeah, no.
I also did not like how they made it seem like Jamie, the other high school boy, was like pursuing Sophie, I I I did not like that. And then the fact that like Sophie's like, "Oh, I assume we had sex, but I was drunk." And he was like, "No, we didn't." I'm like, "You assumed that you had sex with that boy because you wanted to have sex with him." She was entirely
That was
inappropriate with
uncomfortable.
that young
Like
boy,
what?
kissing him and all of those things. But I feel like the show was
Mhm.
trying to maintain
Yeah,
her like she had values that she did not have. Yeah, I honestly, I really would like for
she
season
absolutely
2,
didn't.
no sexual breastfeeding and no teenage sex scandals, please.
Please. I mean, like these people were doing enough where you didn't need that, and it was such a big part of the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like overall, was the show entertaining? Yes. Was the show like different than what's currently on TV? Yes. Will I watch season 2? I will. But honestly, I do think that the show did not need to be as salacious as it was. You like when I tell you like the lesbian sex was the least salacious thing that happened, that's saying a lot.
Yeah, it
Like
is
they
because
could
at
have
least
kept
it's
all of
grown
that.
women that are
They could have
consensual. Mhm.
keep the pegging. I don't care.
You know,
I don't have an
evidence of
issue
known
with the
lesbians.
pegging, honestly.
Hmm.
But
But yes, the teenage.
let's just pull back on some of the other stuff.
Yeah,
So, in the next episode, I really want to explore some of the thematic elements because I honestly feel like the creators of this show slipped in like a lot of commentary on like conservatives, gun control, the patriarchy, and I really want to kind of explore those themes.
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, guys, we will see you next time where we're going to further discuss the Hunting Wives.